Kyren Williams came out of nowhere last season to become one of the most valuable assets in all of fantasy football. He was the definition of a league winner. But now we're on the hunt to find this year's Kyren Williams. We're looking for those running backs who can go from late round pick to fantasy football superstar. And while Williams was taken in the final rounds of drafts last season, even sometimes going undrafted altogether, I've loosened the criteria just a little bit for the purposes of this exercise. The group of running backs I'm looking at are from the later rounds and aren't currently at the top of their depth chart. But there is a world where they can get there. And if they do, they have a chance to make a Kyren Williams-level impact on fantasy football in 2024. My first candidate to be this year's Kyren Williams is Cardinals rookie Trey Benson. Trey Benson may begin the season backing up James Conner, but it feels inevitable that he's going to be starting games at some point. I mean, James Conner is 29 years old and he's never made it through a full season healthy. He's played more than 13 games just one time in his career. But forget about injuries. It's totally in the range of outcomes that Trey Benson just overtakes James Conner altogether. And if that happens, Trey Benson has all the elements to be this year's Kyren Williams, to be a league-winning running back. He's in a quality offense with Kyler Murray healthy, Marvin Harrison Jr. drafted number 4 overall, the breakout at tight end from Trey McBride last year. This is going to be one of the better offenses in the league. And that's going to help give Trey Benson touchdown scoring upside, which is another thing that helped Kyren Williams become a league winner last year. He scored a bunch of touchdowns. And we've already talked about how Trey Benson has a clear path to touches. All that is in his way is 29-year-old James Conner. And then on top of that, he has size, he's 216 pounds, and he's an exceptional athlete. And I've talked about it on other videos before, but Trey Benson is shaping up to be the best zero RB target of the summer. And he absolutely has the upside to break fantasy football and to become this year's Kyren Williams. Rookie running back Kimani Vidal joins a Chargers backfield that includes Gus Edwards, the ghost of J.K. Dobbins, and Isaiah Spiller. I can confidently say that Kimani Vidal is going to emerge as a significant touch getter in that backfield. He has the size to be an NFL workhorse with impressive athleticism, size-adjusted speed and burst. He can get it done between the tackles, but he also has the explosive traits to break off chunk plays. And he doesn't go down easy. He's always driving those legs, pushing forward, and working to get that extra yard or two. And I'm convinced that Jim Harbaugh saw some Blake Corum when he was scouting Kimani Vidal. We know Harbaugh wants to run the ball a ton. He's going to feed his running backs. If Kimani Vidal is at the top of the depth chart, he's going to get a ton of touches. And the Chargers have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Justin Herbert. So that's going to help keep the offense moving, keep everything efficient, getting down to the red zone, which means touchdown opportunities are going to be plentiful for who's ever in that backfield. And that was a huge thing that fueled Kyren Williams' breakout last season, was touchdowns. He scored a bunch. That could be Kimani Vidal in 2024. Rico Dowdle shared the Cowboys backfield last year. He's going to do it again in 2024. However, with Tony Pollard gone and Ezekiel Elliott back, Dowdle's probably going to see an increase in his touches from a year ago. We all know Zeke has been flirting with father time for several years now, so it wouldn't be a surprise for injury or underperformance to force him to take a back seat to Rico Dowdle by mid-season. And believe it or not, Rico Dowdle was efficient in his opportunities last season. He ranked 16th among running backs in yards per target, according to Fantasy Pros. And he's almost certainly going to see more targets now that Tony Pollard's gone. He was also top 24 in yards per touch, top 20 in evaded tackles per touch and EPA, and he was top 10 in yards created per touch. And that's according to Player Profiler. The Cowboys should continue to be one of the better offenses in the NFL. And we know that good offenses mean lots of yards and lots of touchdowns. So if Rico Dowdle proves to be more effective than Ezekiel Elliott, he's going to have an opportunity to emerge as a league winner in fantasy football. How cool would it be to have a full-length podcast about your fantasy football league? That would be pretty sweet, right? Well, we offer exactly that at yardsperfantasy.com. All you need to do is sign up and tell us a little bit about your league. And our team of real fantasy football analysts will break down each team with player evaluations, trade advice, draft strategy. We'll give you a team outlook, and we promise not to hold back on the roasting either. Signups are happening right now, and there are limited spots available. So head over to yardsperfantasy.com and let's get started. Roschon Johnson was one of my favorite rookies from the 2023 class. He's a big, powerful running back who found a way to be productive while working alongside Bijan Robinson at Texas. He's excellent in the receiving game, both as a pass catcher and in pass protection. And we saw flashes of that last year when Johnson caught 15 passes from weeks 12 through 17 to round out the season. That helped fuel 3 top 24 running back performances over the final 5 weeks. And he totaled more than 50 yards in 4 of those 5 games. Now, I know with the offseason addition of DeAndre Swift, it's kind of hard to see a clear path to a significant role for Roschon Johnson right now. But this kind of reminds me of the Rams running back situation last year, where it was supposed to be Cam Akers as the top running back in that backfield. DeAndre Swift was kind of underwhelming from an efficiency standpoint with the Eagles last season. And the way Johnson ended the year, he absolutely earned an opportunity for more touches and to seize at least the RB2 job in Chicago. And that could become a prominent role as a high-end handcuff or eventual starter in what's expected to be a much improved Bears offense. A second half emergence could propel Roschon Johnson to a late season RB1 and make him this year's Kyren Williams. In theory, Jaylen Wright is in a crowded backfield in Miami, but so was Kyren Williams at this time last year. And we don't have to squint too hard to see a path to similar fantasy production from Jaylen Wright. All that is standing in his way of a significant workload is a tiny Devon Achane, who suffered multiple injuries as a rookie, and a 32-year-old Raheem Mostert, who has a laundry list of injuries throughout his career. And who's to say Jaylen Wright doesn't just straight up beat those guys out anyway? I mean, this is a guy who ran a 4.38 40 and jumped out of the stadium at the NFL Combine. And you know he's going to do well if given that opportunity. There are few teams that know how to maximize Jaylen Wright's level of speed and explosion better than Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. They'll be able to accentuate his strengths and mask his weaknesses as well as any organization in football. And with the touchdown scoring potential in the Miami offense, there might be no better candidate to be this year's Kyren Williams than Jaylen Wright. I was a big Chase Brown fan coming out of Illinois last year. I appreciated his explosive traits and 4.43 speed while possessing the size to be an NFL workhorse. His rookie campaign got off to a slow start, but he flashed big playability as his opportunities increased late in the season. And Brown ended the year with only 44 carries, but he averaged more than 4 yards per tote, and he caught 14 of his 15 targets. He ranked number 12 among qualified running backs in yards after contact per attempt, and he was number 16 in missed tackles forced per attempt. And that's according to Fantasy Pros. And on top of that, Chase Brown was incredibly explosive with a 9.1% breakaway run rate. Only Devon Achane broke a long run at a higher rate. And that's per player profiler. And if we're talking about fantasy production, Chase Brown was top 12 in fantasy points per opportunity. And that all culminated in an RB10 finish in week 14 when Brown totaled 105 yards and a touchdown against the Colts. And he added 3 other top 36 performances from weeks 13 through week 18. Remember, this was all done on limited touches, which could be a little bit of foreshadowing for when he has a more significant role in 2024. In fact, Brown had just 3 games with 10 or more touches in 2023. And in those 3 games, he averaged 11.3 fantasy points per game, and that's according to Fantasy Pros. And now Brown's expected to see a much more significant opportunity in his second season. He's going to begin the year behind Zach Moss, who's coming off a productive year with the Colts, which included several boom performances in relief of Jonathan Taylor. However, Zach Moss has never been the guy in an NFL offense outside of a few spot starts. So if he regresses back to his old ways, or if he just can't handle being an every week workhorse, Chase Brown is next in line. And that could be all it takes for Chase Brown to be this year's Kyren Williams. And he has all the elements to make it happen. He has the athleticism, he has the receiving upside, plus plenty of touchdown scoring opportunity in what should be an above average Bengals offense. I want to throw one more name at you real quick, and it's Blake Corum. Because who better to be the next Kyren Williams than the guy that the Rams drafted to be the next Kyren Williams?